This process takes a while, so I decided to kill the time by taking a normal shower by myself, washing the dishes, engaging in thought-provoking debates with the fellas down at the homeless shelter, and then chasing women through public parks. This gets me back home with just enough time for another shower before returning to the computer. Briefly looking over our stats, the plan appears to have worked, casting and magic.
Welcome back to my channel, you bottom gremlins. Today we're gonna be watching some Rat God by Reggie. I actually have not seen anything about this. It's literally called Can I Conquer Hell as a Rat and a Barony? So we're becoming a rat god. And I hope you're excited. And if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and pray for us during this video, because, like, I have no idea what's ahead of us. Alright, Ducky, if anything's out off, I'm sorry. I'm, like, struggling today. Everything. Ugh. And if you hear my voice, like, sound depressed and sad, I'm fine. Just think I'm tired. I don't know. I have no excuse. Okay, I just don't feel like yelling, so I'm gonna move the mic really, really close to my face. It's called... I don't fucking know. Let's just hope it works, because if not, well, you're gonna have a fun time editing.
Barony is a game about equality, because it doesn't matter whether you're a goblin merchant or a human wizard. We all look the same after being painfully crushed by a boulder. This is a first-person RPG roguelike, where you descend floor by floor, acquiring loot and meticulously crafting your build to prepare yourself for the final boss. Giant minotaurs, murderous treasure chests, and even the King of Hell are just some of the myriad horrors that await us in these dungeons. Fortunately, we have access to a wide variety of powerful classes to help us navigate these challenges. But what if we didn't? What if instead we were a rat? Starting off hostile to all races, with only one life, unable to use weapons, low health, lower attack, and our only ability being a spell to find the nearest piece of cheese, could we devise a plan to turn this rat into the most powerful being in the universe? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video, as we brave 25 life-threatening dungeons in an attempt to defeat Baphomet, the Lord of Demons. But first, I have to tell you something. 11 years ago, I had a mental breakdown that culminated in me declaring war on the United States Navy. Don't really remember what caused it. There was a lot going on at the time. Ebola. Didn't really like the Fantastic Four movies. Anyway, I kidnapped a bunch of people and held them hostage in international waters. United States wasn't too happy about that, so they blew up my boat with a Tomahawk missile. Funny enough, I was the only survivor. My war against the U.S. Navy was short-lived, but a lot of fun. And I used to miss it. Until I found out about the sponsor of today's video, World of Warships.
A sponsor.
Now I can relive my glory days on the high seas in breathtaking and realistic combat against up to 23 other players. World of Warships is free to play on PC with constant updates and over 600 intricately modeled aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, and destroyers at your disposal. You want to play this game because on an atomic level, every molecule of your body is an Iowa-class battleship yearning to destroy Imperial Japan. I spoke with a scientist. That's not healthy. In fact, it's probably terminal. So you better hurry up and start playing. But maybe you're not interested in the historical side of things. That's no problem, because the Headless Horseman has just been added to the game, along with his very own custom ship skin. Now, much like me, you can take to the high seas as a revenant of vengeance and strike terror into your enemies' hearts one volley at a time. So what are you waiting for? Click my link in the description to download World of Warships today, and use promo code HEADLESS for 7 days premium access, 1.5 million credits, 500 doubloons, the Headless Horseman plus skin, and your choice of a free Japanese destroyer, American cruiser, or German battleship. So click that link, but don't do it for me. Do it for your World of Warships anime waifu. Now let's get back to the video. Now before we can become the Rat Messiah and kill Satan, we have to do something even harder, beating the game normally. You see, for our Rat build to work, we need access to the Vampire Shaman, which is unlocked by completing 7 different biomes and defeating the bosses Orpheus and Eridice. This was by far the longest and most excruciating part of the plan, so I'll give you the highlights. Create a Goblin Shaman. Congratulations, you are canonically illiterate. Enter the dungeon, beat several people to death with rocks. New biome, full of friendly goblins. Kill them anyway. Eat rotten food and go blind as a result. Murder an innocent man to steal his backpack. You are now a wanted criminal. Avoid legal persecution by using an amulet of sex change to cut off your genitals and become a legally new person. Reattach them later with another amulet. Now you've got the backpack and your dick. Next biome, populated by bugmen. Become an
Why is this so ironic that we had this conversation on stream the other day about a fucking detachable dick? that you can just take off and like put back on whenever you're feeling like, and you can go up to your bro and be like, "Hey, bro, can I borrow your dick?" Why? What? Okay. My peener is in hiding. It's disconnectable.
Wait, I have 2 peas.
It's disconnectable.
I have the
Can you imagine if your peener was disconnectable?
41. Dude, I don't want to know. Imagine walking around with that.
Can you imagine just being like, I don't want to wear my peener today. Disconnects.
Exterminator. Recruit a
Alright,
psychopathic
fair
man
enough.
named the Potato King. He dies almost instantly. Bully short people and get chased out of the level by their Dom
Don't
and Mommy.
bully short
First
people,
boss,
that's my
turn into a troll
kind.
and carefully lobotomize him with a
Lobot-
closed fist. Successfully kill this
Jesus.
all-powerful wizard and then promptly lose a fight against
Oh
Derek
my
the cheeseburger
God.
salesman. New biome. It's full of Irish immigrants and you're starving to death. Take a moment to
Okay,
appreciate the
alright.
gameplay of being shanked by dozens of gnomes. Then proceed to the cockatrice's
Hey,
lair.
that's my
You should
family.
not have
Don't
come
hurt the
to
gnomes.
the cockatrice's lair. Final boss fight. You are not prepared. All of your teammates die within 30 seconds, and you spend the
Oh.
next 20 minutes accidentally running into cleverly placed pools of lava.
Oh
Luckily,
my
your
God,
enemies were nice
Reggie.
enough to put pools of water right next to the pools of lava. The fight has been going on for 30 minutes, and you're about to drop dead from hunger. Gamble everything on one last attack. You get unbelievably lucky and
Oh
kill
my
the boss.
God.
Congratulations, you are now a Bayou Baron. Receive some cutscene about how you're the new king,
We're
and
the
it definitely
king.
won't turn into an evil tyrant like those last guys.
Yeah,
Main
you're
menu.
right.
All right,
Definitely
finally,
no,
we've
I
unlocked
definitely
the Vampire
wouldn't.
Shaman. Now we can begin breaking
Vampire
the game as a
Shaman.
rat. But first,
Yes.
some ground rules. The restrictions of this challenge mean that we are only allowed to interact with the outside world as a rat.
Rat,
However,
okay.
we can interact with our inventory as a vampire.
You ever
Okay.
seen Howie Mandel's penis?
This mostly allows us to do things like equip armor, read books, and brew potions. But apart from that,
Oh.
it's all rat all the time. So
Sounds
let's
good
get
to
started.
me.
We begin
Let's
by
do it.
creating our character and loading into the first floor. Gentlemen, I want to introduce you
Rat meat.
to rat meat. If we want
Yes!
this little guy to kill Satan, he's going to need to be fairly
toughen
high
up.
level. And the
Toughen
best way
up.
to achieve that is by maxing out his skills. There are 16 in total, ranging from swimming to spell casting. However, since we are a rodent, we won't be able to level up trading or any of the weapon skills, which puts us at a
Oh.
major disadvantage.
Yeah.
But we are
Oh.
also a vampire, which gives
I
us access
mean-
to one game-breaking ability. This little fella
Bite.
right here. Levitate is among
Oh,
the cheapest
levitate.
spells in the game, which means
I thought I was
spamming
gonna
it
say
is a
bite.
viable way to level up your magic and casting skills. However, you will eventually run out of mana, unless you're a
Oh.
shaman, because the shaman starts with a
Oh.
voodoo face mask, which gives him +1 mana regen while shapeshifting.
really thought
That doesn't
this
sound like a
through.
lot, but
What?
it is. So by
Oh.
turning into a rat and casting levitate 3,000 times, we should be able to max out 2 of the most important
Oh
skills
my
in the game on
God.
the very first
Magic
floor. Now
and
listen,
casting.
I know what you want. I
Nice.
understand
What do
the
we
male
want, huh?
fantasy.
Oh.
Big muscles, cool sunglasses, driving fast cars, and crashing into a retirement home at 160
Okay,
kilometers
you're
an
not-
hour.
okay,
Simple
you're
stuff,
right about the
really.
retirement
But the male
home
fantasy
part,
does not
okay?
include
But in
sitting at your
Minecraft.
desk for 2 hours and casting levitate 3,000 times. Therefore, I recommend downloading
Auto
Auto
hotkey.
Hotkey and running an automated
Yes.
spell casting script.
I
Mine's
don't
in the
blame you.
description if you're curious. So simply assume rat
I'm gonna
form,
do
start
that.
the
I'm
script,
gonna
and
fill
slowly
my
become
fucking
the
description
most
with
powerful rodent of all time. This process takes a while, so I decided to kill the time by taking a normal shower by myself, washing the
Bite.
dishes, engaging in thought-provoking debates with the fellas down
He
at
did
the
not
homeless
shower by
shelter,
himself.
and then chasing women through public parks. This gets me back home with just enough time for another shower before returning to the computer. Briefly looking over our stats, the
not
plan appears to have
showering
worked.
clothes.
Casting and magic are nearly maxed out. The only problem is we're kind of starving to death. So it's time to enter the dungeon in search of food.
Bite someone,
On the
you're a
topic
vampire,
of food,
technically.
the vampire shaman is again very broken. Because much like Todd Howard, the
Yeah,
vampire requires a constant supply of human blood. The only
Yeah.
difference is we use blood to satiate our hunger, whereas Todd Howard just doesn't want other people to have it. Anyway, blood is
Oh.
our primary food source. However, by transforming to a rat, we are also able to eat conventional types of food. The combination of
Oh.
these two options means we're essentially playing with 200% food abundance,
Damn.
which admittedly is a little hard to appreciate as I starve to death in this dungeon. I start my
What?
food quest by running around the map and recruiting a small posse of
Oh,
rodents, because
look it,
worst
we have
case scenario, we
friends.
can cannibalize our fellow rat brethren. brethren. But that didn't
That's
end up
not
being
what I
necessary,
expected.
since
That
after
is
only
not-
5 minutes, we hit a major jackpot. Not only did we find 2 treasure chests full of food, but one of them also contained a chef's hat. In addition
Oh?
to making us
Can you
look
put
like
it
a
on the
beloved
rat?
Disney character, this hat also increases food nutrition
Oh
by
my
20%
God.
and buffs the drop rate.
No
With a
way.
food supply secured, I made my way back to a safe room and resumed the rat maxing. After levitating about 75
maxing.
more times, we had capped out our casting ability. This is where things get nutty. The reward for becoming a legendary caster is that you learn a 0-mana version of the spell Force
oh my
Bolt. This
God.
is usually unlocked around floor 15 or maybe 20, so
Oh
having
my
access to it on
God.
floor 1 is questionably
freaking
balanced.
crazy.
Furthermore, we can use it to level up the rest of our magic skill.
Oh.
Doing this unlocked the spell Dominate, which allows
Dom-
us to mind control enemies if they're weak enough.
Okay,
if
I
they're
was
not
gonna
weak
say,
enough,
as
it
a
hurts
rat?
a lot. It's
Oh.
like Pokemon, but if you gauge the health bar wrong, Ash Ketchum dies in a violent explosion. With that taken care of, I think we're ready to start the
Makes
adventure.
sense.
I began
Best
rapidly scurrying
explanation.
around the map, picking up every item I could find, the vast majority of which is complete garbage. But we're getting appraisal experience from identifying it. I know an entire stat based around item identification doesn't seem cool or
No.
exciting, but you'll appreciate it when it saves you from accidentally equipping cursed items, such as Amulet of Strangulation
Oh,
or Sweatpants of Circumcision. Truly,
But
not all
sweatpants-
heroes wear capes.
But listen, just put on the sweatpants of and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It becomes detachable, I promise.
Apart from that, I also started my cult of personality by mind controlling a few
Rats!
people and forcing them to beat each other to death. This
Oh,
levels up our leadership
not the
skill, and with
rats!
enough practice, we can even increase our max follower
Not the
count. But for the
rats!
time being, healing potions are hard to come by, so don't get too attached.
Oh!
After scouring the entire floor of all valuable items and signs of life, I
No!
reviewed my inventory. We've got plenty of food, a portable alchemy station, and a ring of might, which gives us, a 1-pound rat, enough strength to effortlessly push a 7,000-pound
God.
boulder across the map. But why does that matter? Well, allow me to explain. In chapter 100 of Baki Do, Yujiro Hanma rapes Joe Williams while maintaining his heterosexuality. This is a power-scaling feat that informs us how
What?
strong a character is.
I don't
For
remember
example,
this.
if I could successfully beat the homosexual allegations, then internet autists would have no choice but to scale me at a multiversal level. But for right now, we're focusing on rat meat, and him pushing an entire boulder easily qualifies him as a small building level superhuman. Not bad for floor 1. Now let's head to the next level. In case you were
Reggie.
concerned that things were getting too easy, don't worry. Floor 2 has got you covered, because this symbol right here indicates that within 5 minutes, a
Oh, dear
gigantic
God.
unstoppable minotaur is going to spawn onto the map, hunt
Please
us
have
down,
mercy.
and curb stomp us back to spawn. I don't think I
What?
can handle levitating 5,000 times again, so
Yes,
we can't
you
let that
can.
happen. I begin frantically
can do
searching
it.
for an escape. Fortunately, I managed to kill an Italian
Oh
man
my-
and use his Daedalus shrine to reveal
What?
the exit, which was when I got a new
Oh.
notification. The Zap Brigade has spawned into the map. I know the
What's the
Zap
Zap
Brigade
Brigade?
sounds jovial and
Oh.
maybe even heroic, but
Yeah.
that's just a name. It's like if the Gestapo started calling themselves the Bubblegum Army. It doesn't really make you feel any
Jesus
better when
Christ.
they're pulling your fingernails out. So the good news is we don't have to
Intimidation
worry
wolf.
about the Minotaur anymore, because the Zap Brigade has executed him by firing squad. The bad news is the Zap Brigade is a group of racial purists who spawned onto the map to perform a large-scale ethnic cleansing on anything that's
Oh,
not human.
fuck.
And my friends, we are
Are not
definitely not
human,
human.
yeah.
1 or 2 shots from their lightning staff, and
Run!
our rat is cooked.
Run!
They're currently stalking their way across the map, actively looking for us. But what they don't know is I'm actively looking for them,
Yeah.
because I want their equipment. Killing
What?
them takes forever due to their amulets
Oh
of
my
magic
God!
reflection. But
What the
slowly, over
fuck?
the course of 30 minutes, I used my
You killed one?
superior rat intellect to separate them and wear them down. After cleaning off the
Damn.
blood stains, we've now got some high-level armor for us to proceed to the next floor.
Damn.
This would be floor 3, but if you enjoy psychological torment as much as I do, then I recommend flipping these levers and going to the secret level, the Gnomish
Oh.
Mines. My therapist keeps telling me George Droid isn't real, and
Yeah,
he
but,
can't hurt
I
me, but
mean-
I know better. I've seen the schematics. Similarly, Barony developers will try to convince you that the Gnomish Mines aren't that bad. I mean, look at
Yeah.
this well-lit
It looks
room
so
with all kinds
nice.
of golden fountains, and the exit is right there.
It looks
This
so
is terrific.
pretty.
But let me tell you something. They ran
Okay.
out of room in hell a long time ago, and now they're putting all the gnomes here. Outside of these doors is
Oh,
a
it's my
winding maze filled to the
family.
brim with trolls, lightning staff gnomes, and ornery child miners that want nothing more than to excavate the side of your head. Around every corner, there is a 25% chance of getting smoked in the face with a lightning bolt, and there's like 600 corners, which is why I chose to mind control the gnomes and have them lead the way. After carefully and meticulously exterminating 70% of the gnome population, I had gained several levels and become relatively powerful. By using bloodletting, we can now two-shot most gnomes and farm them for vials of blood. Now, I'm not sure what's more terrifying, being stalked through a mine shaft by a bloodthirsty magical rat, or realizing it's actually just a naked man in a chef's hat. But either way, we're not here just to terrorize the gnomes. We're also here for the Sphinx's cats, an artifact helmet of extreme value to spellcasters. It gives 3 armor and 8 intellect. For reference, plus 8 intelligence is a massive difference. Consider it to be the difference between 2 people. One is a normal man who works a job at the hot dog factory and has a wife and kids. The other is a deranged lunatic who spends his free time staring into the sun and taping dead rats to his ceiling. I'm not sure who the intelligent one is, but they're pretty fucking different. Point is, this helmet is going to make our spells do a lot more damage. However, there are 2 issues. First, the treasure room is locked behind a series of impenetrable gates, and second, it's guarded by about a dozen spellcasting traps. Solving problem number 1, the switch to open the gate is located inside this merchant shop. I lure the shopkeeper out of his store, double back, flip the switch, and make my escape. This made me a wanted criminal according to the merchant's guild, but it's worth noting that Reggie the rat is a legally distinct person from Reggie the vampire, so he's not wanted. Don't worry though, the merchant's guild also wants to lynch Reggie the vampire, but it's just because they're racist, not because he's a criminal. Now with the treasure room open, we have 2 options. Option 1, I carefully examine the room from multiple angles and learn the timing of each trap to formulate a safe plan of approach.
Or you send monsters
Option 2,
in.
I cast a speed buff and run in while pissing my pants. Obviously, I chose the latter. Miraculously, this worked, and we secured the helmet. This is a huge power spike for all of rat kind. Now, let's get out of this absolute dump. Floors 3 and 4 were relatively uneventful. However, it's worth noting that usually by this point, you're level 5 or maybe 6. We are level 13. Also, we have so much random shit in our inventory that we actually weigh 860 pounds. I can't fathom how embarrassing it must be to get mind controlled by a morbidly obese rat dragging itself across the floor. But clearly, it's not embarrassing enough to make a difference. Interesting loot on these floors included an amulet of strangulation, which isn't useful to us, but there is actually a BDSM gimp class in the game, which regenerates its mana through autoerotic self-asphyxiation. So we'll leave this here for them. Instead, we're going to take this ring of warning. Reggie. By equipping it, we basically unlock wall hacks, because all enemies on the level are now marked as pink dots on our minimap. Slowly but surely, we are approaching divinity. Now let's move on to the next biome, the swamp.
I'm ready.
The swamp is best known for its gangs of goblin criminals that will stab you to death at a moment's notice.
Oh my god,
The closest real-life equivalent to this would be going to a Brazilian favela and telling the local drug dealer that his native language is just gay Spanish. This is a high-level engagement farming technique, assuming you can moderate the casual
that was right at my head.
racism. To my Brazilian viewers, I support you and concede that Brazilian Portuguese is fundamentally superior to Portugal Portuguese. Together, we can defeat the colonial pig dogs. But I digress. The real value in the swamps doesn't come from chewing goblins to death with my big dumb rat teeth. It comes from this, a pool of water. On one of the earlier floors, I stole an amulet of Olympic swimming from a gnome. At the time, I just did it because the idea of a gnome swimming as fast as a shark creeped me out. But now we can use it to our advantage. By equipping the amulet and casting a speed buff, we can blast through the water like a torpedo and power level our swimming in the process. This process takes a while, and you have to be careful not to shapeshift back into a vampire, because, and there's no good way of putting this, you will physically dissolve. Luckily, we didn't dissolve, and after 45 minutes of high-speed training, we achieved 100 swimming, which now lets us walk not only on water, but also lava.
On lava?
That's right.
No
Rat Jesus
way.
is becoming a thing, and you can't stop it. My first order of business as a religious icon was to wage a holy war against the Merchants Guild. For far too long, they have persecuted us for our beliefs, and it ends here.
You mean
I went
being
to a jewelry store and lured the shopkeeper out into a wooded area, at which point I began frantically darting between the trees while blasting him with high-level magic. Over time, I was able to slowly whittle down his health bar until he was low enough for me to finish him off with my mouth. This was more painful and less homosexual
Reggie,
than it
I'm
sounds.
just saying that, Yeah, you finished him off with your mouth. Are you sure about that one, Captain? Are you sure that you didn't... Mm-hmm.
While picking through the shopkeeper's personal effects, I came across a ring of invisibility. Oh yeah, Rat
that'd be
Jesus
good.
the serial killer is now invisible. This
Nice!
is big. Arriving on floor 7, I waste no time destroying the non-believers, which it turns out is quite easy to do
Oh my
when you have the
God.
bite force of a crocodile and your enemies can't see you. First major
Yeah,
piece
that's
of loot
fucked up.
we found was a ring of slow digestion.
Oh.
Combining this with our chef's hat won't stop world hunger, but it'll stop
But,
mine. Admittedly, the
yes.
value of an anti-starvation build is a bit questionable when we
Yeah,
have
just a
30
little.
vials of blood and 150 pounds of chicken legs in our inventory. To help offset that weight, I also found a pair of metal boots that weigh negative 40 pounds. I was trying to understand that when suddenly I was ambushed by the Minotaur, and this time there's no ethno-fascists here to save us. But we're not the same rat we were 6 floors ago, so I decided to fight the Minotaur in a David versus
Jesus.
Goliath-esque battle. By continually refreshing my Adderall speed buff, I was able to effortlessly run laps around the map, stopping every so often to pelt him with force bolts.
Get
To
him!
motivate my survival instincts, I also used a mental exercise where
my
I
God.
pretended that I was a female Twitch streamer, and
What?
the Minotaur was my
Hey!
#1 fan. I swear to
Hey!
God, that
Wait. 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 Oh, I get it. I get it now. Yeah, that would work. It would work, Reggie.
actually
would've-
made me run faster. Once I started mixing in some slowing spells, it was all over. Little known fact here, but after killing Goliath, David chopped his head off and carried
What?
it back home. He was kind of a freak
Oh.
like that. Anyway, I couldn't find the Minotaur's head, so I just picked up his flawless
Oh.
emerald. This is very valuable, but money is a construct of the merchant's guild, and we have no need for such
Yeah,
vices.
we,
So I threw it into the chasm and moved on to floor 8. Seemingly not
That's,
content with
you know.
dying once, the Minotaur came back again on floor 8, but
What?
he did even worse this time, because me and the boys kicked
Oh
the
my
ever-living
God.
shit out of him. After that, I spent some
Me and
time
the
using my ring of
boys.
invisibility to farm backstabs on the local NPCs, which power
Damn!
leveled our stealth. Once we get it maxed out, we'll be able to turn invisible even without the ring. Anyway, I ran out of people to stab, so I decided to head to the secret level, nearly getting
Oh my
crushed by several
God.
boulders in the process. Heading through the portal, we arrive at the haunted castle. It's just us and our
Ooh.
goblin companion named Abdul. Abdul will not be
Abdul.
surviving this part,
What?
because the haunted castle is like a schizophrenic homeless man on the sidewalk. Harmless when ignored, but once you interact with it, you have put everyone's life
Oh
in
my
immense
God.
danger.
Oh my
Luckily for
God,
us, I have
okay.
a plan. I explore the outskirts of the castle, making sure to ignore the 60 tombstones all around it, before proceeding inside to find some very nice loot. These legendary boots give us a huge armor buff as well as more wall hacks.
Dude, I
However,
would never
by
be able
touching
to
them,
play
I have
this. This is
awakened the
hurting my
sleeping
brain.
beast. Specifically, all 60 of those tombstones out front, yeah, they just spawned
Oh.
super zombies, and now they're coming to kill us. Rushing outside, I waste no time casting the levitate spell and walking off the edge of a
No,
cliff. As long as we
Abdul!
can channel this, they can't get us. Furthermore, our melee range is about 10%
Oh my
longer than
God.
theirs. So I spent the next 30 minutes beating every single zombie
Oh
to
my
death with
God.
my bare hands, taking breaks every so often to drip feed myself YouTube slop while I regenerate
YouTube
mana.
slop.
This power
Oh.
leveled our unarmed skill from 25 to 64.
Oh my
with all of the
God.
zombies pummeled into a puree, I went back into the castle to gather the rest of the loot. Side note here, but the castle has plumbing, which you can use to fill up glass bottles with clean water. Clean water which can then be used with your alembic to duplicate
Oh,
potions
dear
and level
God,
up your
man.
alchemy skill. After a bit of that, it was time to move on. Floor 9 was relatively uneventful. I spent 20 minutes harassing slime molds to max our stealth, killed another shopkeeper because I liked his fit, and then moved
Yeah,
on to the
his
next
fit.
biome,
Sure.
the Sand Labyrinth. Neither a labyrinth nor particularly sandy, this place is better known for making me racist against lava and housing an
Racist
entire
what?
bug society. This whole place is swarming with scarabs, scorpions,
my
and
God.
insectoid warriors. Luckily, we've got
Damn.
about 40 vials of blood, so I was able
Yeah.
to take my time carefully enslaving an army of bugmen to do my bidding.
Oh.
Now, in case you're not thrilled by the
Nice.
idea of being drafted into my 1940s-esque chain gang, I humbly invite you to consider the alternative.
Okay,
because
what's
I'm
the
running around the
alternative?
map at 70 kilometers an hour, ripping everyone else apart limb from limb. We're on floor 13 now, which puts
Okay.
us at about the halfway point to reaching hell and killing the
Nice.
devil. Also, Rat Jesus just unlocked his first major miracle, because this
What?
spellbook gives us access to some basic healing for
Oh my
ourselves and our
God, that's
followers. This
crazy.
is just like in the comic. Shortly after finding the book, I also found a pair of golden Roman laurels, at which point my eyes widened, as I entered the
Oh.
mind state of a man who believes the ghost of John Lennon is attempting to communicate with him through his Alpha Getty, because there's no way this was a coincidence. You see, 13 years ago, I got banned from my local church for asking the priest to power scale Jesus. Long story short, one of Jesus's main anti-feats was getting arrested by a bunch of illiterate Romans. Illiterate Romans, Roman laurels, obvious really. Anyway, I believe the game wants us to rectify that in our build by becoming Roman. Or I need to refill my medication. Either way, I'm wearing the laurels. And they provide a massive 50% XP buff to our followers, which combined with our newfound healing abilities will allow us to power level them very easily. Moving on to floor 14,
oh my god, we're becoming unstoppable.
Leadership to convert
you know what would make it all better is if we just had a big rat army. But I don't think he can go back to level 1 and collect the rats, because I'm pretty sure, knowing Reggie, he killed every single one of them.
Numbers on my stat sheet. Also, I found a very rare single-use amulet of life-saving, which allows us to resurrect ourselves if we die, thereby completing our Son of God cosplay. Now we can proceed to the next biome, the ruins.
I don't know how I feel about this one,
Reggie. The
Reggie.
easiest way to explain this biome is with a story. 2 years ago, I was stopped on the street by a homeless man who almost certainly had hepatitis.
Why is there an A in his beard?
He looked deeply into my eyes and said the
A.
following. I haven't achieved sexual release in 13 years,
Run,
but
Reggie.
I'm ready
Run.
to now.
Run.
That was the most terrified I have ever been prior to unlocking the ruins. Because this entire godforsaken biome is swarming with militant gnomes that spend their entire time covering every square inch of the map with improvised traps.
Aren't they
lucky,
wonderful?
You'll step on a bear trap or maybe an IED. But the less
if you guys
fortunate
don't
among
get
us
the gnome thing, I'm 5'1.5", and according to my chat, I'm not allowed to have the ½ inch because I was wearing shoes. So, there's your answer. Everyone calls me a freaking garden gnome.
They fall victim.
They're my family.
Hypnol sleeping traps that quickly sedate you into unconsciousness. At which point, your ass may as well be a gnomish waffle house, because 10 to 20 of them are going to pile into it and be violent. Now, I don't know about you, but compared to getting gangbanged by gnomes, the idea of catching hepatitis from a street vagrant is starting to sound pretty good. But we're here now, and that guy's probably at a psych ward. So let's just get through this. I put the boys to work thinning out the gnome population. This generally worked well, but every so often we'd have some friendly fire. The issue with that is that friendly AI is programmed to hit back whoever attacked it, and the other AI is programmed to do the same. So any instance of friendly fire automatically initiates a positive feedback loop of reciprocated violence until someone is dead. Still levels up my leadership though. Anyway, not a huge fan of the ruins, so I made my way to the next secret level, the Mystic Library.
Oh my god,
this is a magical archive containing some of the strongest items in the game. Like many areas in Barony, it is also a very chill place if you're human. To everyone else, it may as well be Rwanda in 1994.
Jesus.
That being said, we wasted no time subduing the Hutu librarians and stealing all of their relics. Mostly, it was a bunch of vaguely useful items, until I came across this chest right here. Contained within it was the final piece of our puzzle, the Vampire Doublet. This item disables passive health regeneration, but maxes mana regeneration. Combined with our Shaman Mask, we're now generating mana 1200% faster than normal, which means we don't have to settle for free force bolts anymore.
And he can also heal
now
himself,
we can start
so
smacking
like,
our
where's
enemies
the
with such
losing here?
exciting
There's no
spells
losing.
as Invert Penis and Summon Foot Fetishist. With that, myself, Lesser Insectoid, Troll, and Felicia all proceeded to floor 17, where we were immediately mobbed by a gang of street gnomes. In this moment, I want nothing more than the sweet release of death, but I must live on to make the gnomes' lives worse. The good news is that all of this fighting has increased our leadership, and we can now field 8 followers at a time. Battling our way to floor 18, we hear cries of anguish in the distance, which means there's either an Amazon warehouse on this level, or we're getting close to hell. After killing a few demons, my suspicions were confirmed. This is our crossroads. If we go through the normal exit, we proceed toward Baron Herx, but if we take the secret exit, we go to the underworld, which has a pleasant but surprising lack of gnomes. So you better believe I dove into this exit with the same enthusiasm as a burning man jumping into a lake of fire extinguishers. We are now in the underworld, a dark and insidious place teeming with nauseating creatures of the night. Also, it's not wheelchair accessible. In fact, it's not accessible at all. It's mostly just empty space. And since we're the only levitating rat on this team, we'll be doing most of this by ourselves. I flew around the first level, killing every zombie and imp I could find. At this point, we're very over-leveled and we have best-in-slot equipment, so the killing is just for fun. Eventually, I decided to head back to the exit, which actually just takes you deeper into the underworld. This is where most people go, oh no, I'm stuck in eternal damnation. How can I escape? But those people are weak-minded. hell is stuck with us. And
Yeah.
we're going to keep killing hollow
Yeah,
elites
we
until
are
we get to the final
good.
boss. However, I will admit it is a bit dangerous, because on this floor you start running into shades. These ethereal entities
What
copy
the
your character,
fuck?
equipment, and skills.
Oh,
Except when they
Jesus.
copied me, they didn't stay in rat form. So I had to
Oh.
fight a Chad version of myself wielding the legendary spear
Jesus.
Gungnir. Shit sucked.
That's so
After sexually
fucked.
dominating several clones
Sexually?
of
Whoa,
myself,
whoa,
I
whoa, whoa,
proceeded
whoa.
through this portal. Thank God, we're
Reggie?
finally in hell. This isn't how most YouTubers end up here, but it works for me. The very first thing I did in hell was find the Minotaur and kill him all over again. You really thought you could escape me just by
We
going
become-
to another plane of
Yeah.
existence? You absolute
Yeah.
buffoon. Speaking of which, I also found the Zap Brigade and engaged in a
Zap
large-scale
Brigade.
conflict with them. Unfortunately, they actually smoked me with a lightning bolt and killed me on the
Oh.
spot. However, our amulet of life-saving
Nice,
kicked in
we're
and we
alive.
were resurrected to continue our holy mission. The
Yeah.
Messiah has returned. However, that was kind of a one-time thing, so we'll have
Yeah.
to be more careful. Anyway, I recruited several demons and we started working our
Jesus.
way through hell floor by floor. My next
We're
near-death experience occurred when I got
overpowered.
trapped in this courtyard with a rapidly spawning group of hostile
Oh my
goatmen.
God.
If we weren't invisible right now, we would certainly be dead. Wasn't sure how to get
Ew.
out of this one, to be honest, until I realized we have max leadership, which
Yeah,
allows us to
just-
recruit goatmen. So while invisible, I walked up to the goats, covertly recruited them onto my team, and convinced them to kill all of their
Oh
friends.
my God,
From our
that's-
perspective, this made perfect sense. But to
It
everyone
does.
else, this must have appeared as some kind of mass psychotic event. After that,
I
the
mean,
only
it
thing
makes
left was to
sense to
assault the
me.
Cathedral of Sin. So we may as well min-max the rest of our stats before going in. All that was
Yeah.
left was alchemy, so I leveled it up by opening my inventory and drinking an exciting mixture of random chemicals
Oh my
and vials of
God.
acid. Non-chemists will see you power leveling your alchemy
Jesus.
by drinking VCR head cleaner and say he can't afford water. Now prepared for
that's
our
probably
destiny,
true.
I stormed the cathedral, mind-controlled the priest, and flipped
Jesus.
several levers to open a portal to Mega Hell. Through here is
Meg-
Baphomet, who will not hesitate to kill us on the
Oh.
spot. So I sorted out my inventory, optimized the toolbars, and then dropped 10,000 gold to make us 100 pounds lighter. It's time
What?
for Ratchet to become a legend.
He
Arriving
dropped
through
the
the portal,
gold.
we are immediately greeted
Oh
by several
my
pools of lava and
God.
the King of Hell. But for some reason, our first thought is the craftsmanship on these walls is immaculate. The fight
They
started with
are,
us getting
though.
mobbed by several demons, while Baphomet attempted pest control via fireball. We handled
Yeah,
this
aren't we
part
short?
fairly well,
It won't
but then he
matter.
swapped to high-level boulder
Oh.
spam, which resulted in about 50% casualties among our followers. The good news is we were absolutely chunking him whenever he'd pop up, and our amulet was reflecting
Nice.
most of his spells. Eventually, myself and two
I
of
wondered
our
why
imps
he wasn't
cornered
getting hit.
Baphomet and mag dumped him down to 10% health. At
Yeah!
which point, we finished him off by biting
Eating
him to
him.
death. Baphomet sunk
Bite,
into the lava,
bite,
and the
bite,
game rewarded
bite,
us
bite.
by making me fight 2 Minotaurs at the same
Oh
time.
my God.
Actually, not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, no,
With
it
the
doesn't.
primeval defeated and the entire Minotaur bloodline extinct, I
We
fought my way to the exit
Areka,
portal and
right?
returned to the land of the living. At which point, we got an epilogue explaining that we have defeated the devil and no mortal or immortal can challenge our power. For a rat,
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty damn good. So there you have it. We started off as a lowly rodent, and through a series of contrivances, we became a god. I'd like to thank the
Yeah.
Minotaur for being such a good sport, this
Yes,
month's
he
patrons
was.
for supporting the channel, and finally, thank you for watching.
Yeah!
Before I go, don't forget to download World of Warships using the link in the comments and use promo code HEADLESS to receive in-game currency, free ships, and a
Here we go
horseman
again.
with no head. Alright, that's all
Yeah.
for now. See you later.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not buying.
I just want to sit here and listen to it. But it ends very quickly, unfortunately. Yeah, I was gonna say it fucking ends super quick. Anyways, thank you guys for watching with me. I hope you enjoyed becoming a rat god with me. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really interesting. I love shit like this. I made an RPG game, and I can't tell you what it is because I dox myself. So, but thank you guys for watching the video with me. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, especially if it's another Reggie video. I think I'm out after this one. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.